Growing up, my grandmother and I never understood each other. Ours was a relationship forged through passive-aggressive back-to-school shopping battles in suburban tween cool girl store, The Limited 2. My grandmother waiting outside my dressing room in anticipation of her handiwork. Me emerging in silent protest in the bright pink sweater that she had promised would just brighten up my face. I hated pink. Afterwards, safely back in my standard uniform of oversized gray sweatshirt, ill-fitting jeans, and asexual shoes, I'd fling my body on my mom's bed and whine, why does she want me to be girly? Why does she make me wear pink? Why won't she just buy me Doc Martens from Nordstrom's? Life is very hard. My mother, a kindred spirit, said, hey, look, your mom, your grandma, she doesn't understand you, but she loves you, and that's all that matters. Things continued like this with my grandmother and I until I was in college. By that point, my mom had died, and my dad had quickly remarried, and I don't know if it was a need for a feeling of home, and home didn't feel so much like home, or the siren song of free food and laundry service, but I started visiting my grandmother more often. Which is why I am now sitting in a giant wooden booth in a Ruby Tuesdays in suburban Maryland. Across from me sits my grandfather. We're drinking 2 twin 24-ounce Bud Lights. It's the 2 for Tuesday special at Ruby Tuesdays. Across from me sits my grandmother, who's chatting happily with my best friend and college roommate, Megan. Now, Megan and I are inseparable, and she often joins me on the trip from Philadelphia to Bel Air, Maryland. And she's the perfect best friend. She's fun, she's loyal, and she doesn't judge my questionable life choices. But mostly, at this moment, she is the perfect best friend because she is girly, feminine, and my grandmother loves her. And they are deep in conversation about the curtains that she has just picked out for our senior year apartment. My grandfather and I exchange bored looks over our giant beers. It is at this moment that my grandmother looks at Meg and I and says, girls, we have something for you. It's a picture. Your Aunt Kate did it in art school. It's been in the basement since the 70s. We've never quite known what to do with it. Now, Meg and I are thrilled with anything that's not my black and white say anything poster, so I quickly say, sounds great. What is it? My grandmother seems like she's at a loss for words. My grandmother is never at a loss for words. My grandfather speaks up. Now, I must say my grandfather is the kindest, most gentle man. I've never heard him utter a curse word or make a lewd joke. The man takes a deep breath and says, girls, the picture, it's of a woman's insides. Meg jokes on her giant apple martini. Afterwards, back in my grandparents' house, my grandfather emerges from the basement. Meg and I take it in. It's a 2-foot by 3-foot, gold-framed, professionally matted, pen and ink abstract vagina. And not any abstract vagina, no. Inside all of the various folds and crevices, there are teeny tiny naked women frolicking about. Behind me, my grandmother says, it's even signed and numbered. Megan, always good in a pinch, says, oh, Betty, it's perfect. Driving back that night in Meg's Cabrio, she looks at me and she says, Katie, I think your grandparents think we're a couple. Think about it. We're always together. We're getting an apartment, and you insist on wearing those man blazers. Meg and I sit in silence. And then we laugh. We laugh because we are, in fact, just best friends. And we just also happen to like men. And as funny as that moment may have been, in the month that followed, I hoped that Meg had gotten it wrong, and perhaps they just thought we'd appreciate the art. On my next trip to my grandparents, as I was standing next to my grandmother, however, in the checkout line at Blockbuster Video, reading the back of the movie she said we just had to watch, I realized, no, Meg had it right. Because tonight, instead of our normal romantic comedy fare starring Hugh Grant or Sandra Bullock or both, tonight we would be watching Kissing Jessica Stein, a truly lovely romantic comedy about a young woman exploring her sexuality and dating a woman for the first time. For 1 hour and 38 minutes, I sat next to my grandmother, my mind racing on what to do. I imagine all the research and effort she had put into this moment. I didn't even know she knew how to use the internet. But mostly, I think perhaps for the first time in my life, I'm realizing that I spent so much time feeling misunderstood that I failed to recognize what an awesome person she was. And she was doing this beautiful thing to show that she loved me and accepted me for me. Except her perception of me wasn't quite there. And I really hated that I was going to have to ruin this moment by telling her the truth. And so afterwards, after the movie, when she so casually just said, Katie, your grandfather and I think Meg's a really great girl. I knew this was my moment. I should tell her the truth. And so I did, kind of. I said, I think Meg's a really great girl too.